Welcome to True Crime Case Files. Today, we delve into a chilling case that rocked the small, usually peaceful town of Winterset, Iowa. In late September of 1998, a series of brutal murders shattered the community, leading to an investigation that would pit neighbor against neighbor and leave the town divided over the guilt or innocence of one of their own. This is the story of a question that haunts Winterset to this day: sheriff or serial killer? In the heart of Madison County, with its iconic covered bridges and rolling farmlands, the small town of Winterset, Iowa, became the unsuspecting backdrop for a tragedy that would reverberate far beyond its borders. 17-year-old Hannah Carlisle, a junior at Winterset High School, embodied the spirit of her quaint hometown. Known for her quick wit and compassionate nature, Hannah was a familiar face at the local library, where she volunteered, immersing herself in literature and community service. Born on a brisk February morning in 1981 to Michael, a mechanic at the town's lone Ford dealership, and Susan Carlisle, a part-time librarian, Hannah grew up alongside her younger brother, Alex. The Carlisle family, respected members of the community, were regular attendees at the First United Methodist Church on Sundays and could often be found cheering on the Huskies at high school football games. Academically inclined, Hannah excelled in her studies, particularly in biology, where she nurtured a dream to one day become a veterinarian. Her love for animals was well known, as she spent her afternoons at the Winterset Veterinary Center, assisting with care for pets and livestock. She was in the midst of college preparations, her eyes set on Iowa State University, known for its esteemed veterinary program. Her aspirations were cut tragically short. In the days before her death, Hannah was seen at the local coffee shop, Cornerstone Coffee, discussing her latest SAT scores with friends, unaware that these moments would be among her last. The pages of her diary, recovered later, were filled with plans for the future and reflections on the world around her, from the release of Google as a fledgling search engine to the latest episode of Friends that aired on NBC, a show she watched religiously every Thursday night. The fabric of Hannah's life, interwoven with the threads of her dreams and daily routines, was torn apart in a single, violent act, leaving the Carlisle family and the town of Winterset to grapple with an incomprehensible loss. On the morning of September 28, 1998, the Carlisle family home in Winterset, Iowa, became the center of a harrowing crime scene. At approximately 7:05 a.m., Susan Carlisle, in a state of disbelief, found her daughter, Hannah, unresponsive in her bedroom. The tranquility of the early autumn day was shattered by Susan's heart-wrenching screams, which echoed through the corridors of the modest suburban home. She frantically dialed 911, her voice trembling as she urged dispatchers to send help immediately. The local police department responded with urgency, arriving at the scene within minutes. The lead investigators, Detective John Marley, a seasoned officer with over 20 years on the force, and Detective Erin Soto, known for her keen analytical skills, were met with a sight that would haunt even the most experienced law enforcement officials. Hannah, a 17-year-old high school junior with aspirations of becoming a veterinarian, lay motionless on her bed. The scene was a chilling juxtaposition of her orderly room and the violent act that had taken place. She had been suffocated with her own pillow, her throat cruelly slashed by what was later identified as a hunting knife. As the detectives set about their meticulous work, they noted the absence of forced entry, suggesting the perpetrator may have been someone familiar with the family. The local news stations, including KCCI and WCHO-TV, were quick to pick up the story, with reporters descending on the quiet town, eager to cover the tragic event that had unfolded. As the story of the promising student's untimely death began to capture the attention of the area, the investigation was methodical, with the police collecting forensic evidence, including fingerprints and fibers, in an attempt to piece together the final moments of Hannah's life. The community of Winterset, still reeling from the news, braced itself for the unfolding investigation, as the question on everyone's lips was whether this was an isolated incident or the beginning of a more sinister pattern. As September drew to a close, the Carlisle family grappled with the enormity of their loss, and a town awaited answers with bated breath. In the wake of Hannah Carlisle's tragic demise, Winterset High School became the backdrop for intense scrutiny as investigators zeroed in on Landon Bondi, an 18-year-old senior and Hannah's boyfriend. The month of October 1998 saw the small town of Winterset, Iowa, thrust into the spotlight, with news outlets like the Des Moines Register covering the unfolding drama. Landon, known among his peers for his ambition to innovate in the burgeoning tech industry, exhibited erratic behavior post-Hannah's death, capturing the attention of law enforcement. His dream of starting a tech company, inspired by the likes of Silicon Valley's Apple and Microsoft, was overshadowed by the investigation. During police interrogations, Landon's demeanor vacillated between defensive and agitated, raising suspicions. However, a comprehensive psychological evaluation subsequently diagnosed him with untreated schizophrenia, offering some explanation for his recent conduct. His alibi for the time of Hannah's murder was corroborated, ruling him out as a suspect and adding another layer of complexity to the case. The local community, while grappling with the implications of the murder, also faced the challenge of reconciling the image of a troubled youth with the potential for violence. As the autumn leaves turned, and the world tuned into the premiere of Charmed on the WB or listened to the latest hits from the Billboard charts, Winterset's residents were consumed by a real-life mystery that seemed to defy any immediate resolution. The police continued their exhaustive search for answers, canvassing the town and delving into the lives of Hannah's acquaintances. The investigation, however, was far from over, and as Landon received the mental health care he needed, the question remained, if not him, then who? The serene town of Winterset, Iowa, was once again plunged into despair when, merely weeks after the murder of Hannah Carlisle, another harrowing discovery was made. On the morning of October 22, 1998, Brittany Peters, a 16-year-old junior, and her boyfriend, Justin Gretas, a 17-year-old senior, were found deceased in Brittany's bedroom. A scene all too reminiscent of the previous tragedy. Justin was stabbed multiple times in the chest while Brittany was suffocated and had her throat slit, just like Hannah. Brittany, a talented musician who aspired to the fame of icons like Madonna, featured prominently on MTV at the time, and Justin, a dedicated athlete with collegiate ambitions, were both well regarded by their peers. The double homicide sent shockwaves through the community, which was still reeling from the loss of Hannah. As the story broke, local media outlets like KCCI descended upon Winterset. The town, with its picturesque autumnal backdrop, became the unlikely focus of a media frenzy, with the case drawing comparisons to the notorious investigations featured on the recently premiered Cold Case Files on A&E. The Winterset Police Department, under intense scrutiny, conducted a series of interrogations with friends and family of the victims. The atmosphere was fraught with tension and grief, as loved ones struggled to comprehend the magnitude of their loss. Despite the emotional interrogations, no clear suspect emerged, leaving investigators to question the motive behind these heinous acts. As October drew to a close, with Google's recent incorporation still making tech headlines and the New York Yankees celebrating their World Series victory, the town of Winterset faced its own unfolding drama. The police were left to wonder if these murders were the work of a serial perpetrator, a notion that was previously unthinkable in this close-knit community. With no new leads and a town paralyzed by fear, the police continued their search for the elusive killer, hoping to restore a sense of safety and justice to the shaken residents of Winterset. As the crisp October air descended upon Winterset, Iowa, a discovery in the dense woodlands surrounding the town breathed new life into the harrowing investigation of the serial murders that had disrupted the community's peace. On October 29, 1998, a local hunter, navigating the familiar yet foreboding terrain, stumbled upon a gruesome find that would alter the course of the case. Nestled amongst the fallen leaves and underbrush was a hunting knife, its blade smeared with drying blood, an ominous echo of the violent acts it had perpetrated. The hunter, aware of its potential significance, promptly notified the authorities, preserving the integrity of what would become a pivotal piece of evidence. The Winterset Police Department, alongside forensic experts, descended upon the scene, cordoning off the area with the familiar flutter of yellow tape. The knife, upon examination, bore striking similarities to the weapon used in the string of brutal murders that had claimed the lives of 3 of the town's youth. It was a standard hunting knife, its design not uncommon, yet the particular wear of the handle and the distinct nicks along the blade's edge correlated with the wounds inflicted upon the victims. The media, hungry for any development in the case, latched onto the story, with outlets like the Des Moines Register and local television stations providing extensive coverage. The public's fascination with true crime, fueled by shows like America's Most Wanted and the recent release of films like Halloween H20, only intensified the scrutiny on the investigation. As the forensic analysis continued, the knife underwent rigorous testing, with DNA samples extracted from the bloodstains and compared against the genetic material of the victims. The results were conclusive, tying the weapon irrefutably to the crimes that had shattered the tranquility of Winterset. The revelation of the knife's discovery and its implications reverberated through the town, igniting a mixture of fear and anticipation. The police, bolstered by this new lead, delved deeper into their investigation, determined to trace the origins of the knife and unveil the identity of the perpetrator. The residents of Winterset, once confident in the safety of their close-knit community, now faced the chilling reality that the killer was amongst them, masquerading as an unassuming figure in their daily lives. As November's chill swept through Winterset, the town faced a grim reality. The investigation into the serial murders took a harrowing turn with the discovery of a third victim, Erica Steinberg, an 18-year-old high school senior with aspirations of becoming a journalist. Erica's lifeless body was found in a scene mirroring the previous tragedies, suffocated with a pillow and her throat slit in her own bed, horrific facts that sent shockwaves through the already reeling community. The Winterset Police Department, under intense scrutiny, worked tirelessly, poring over every detail of the crime scene. Erica, known for her tenacious spirit and inquisitive nature, was found in her home, her journalistic ambitions cut short by an act of unspeakable violence. The methodical nature of the attack suggested a pattern, with the killer leaving behind no apparent motive, only a trail of sorrow and unanswered questions. The media fervor surrounding the case intensified, with national news outlets like CNN and local papers such as the Winterset Madisonian offering daily coverage. The public, still reeling from the recent impeachment inquiry against President Bill Clinton, found a morbid distraction in the unfolding drama of the Winterset murders. Investigators found themselves at a standstill, with each lead dissolving into frustrating dead ends. The community, once a tapestry of trust and familiarity, unraveled into a tableau of suspicion and fear. The police, desperate for a breakthrough, expanded their inquiry, interviewing Erica's associates and combing through her articles, hoping her journalistic instincts might have uncovered a clue to her killer's identity. As Thanksgiving approached, a somber mood settled over Winterset. The holiday season, typically a time of togetherness and gratitude, was overshadowed by the pall of the unsolved crimes. The Steinberg family, along with the Carlyles and Peters, faced an empty seat at the table, a stark reminder of the joy that had been so cruelly snatched away. December 1998 brought more than just the festive lights and holiday cheer to Winterset, Iowa. It brought a turning point in the chilling serial murder case that had gripped the town. The focus of the investigation shifted dramatically when suspicion fell on an unexpected figure, Sheriff Jeffrey Van Dyke, aged 47, a respected and seasoned lawman with no apparent motive for such heinous crimes. The sheriff, who had been the face of law enforcement in Madison County for years, was now under the microscope. His home and office became the epicenter of the investigation. The search revealed a hunting knife collection, one of which, currently missing, closely matched the murder weapon discovered the previous month. This discovery, coupled with Van Dyke's inability to provide an alibi for the nights of the murders, cast a shadow of doubt on his innocence. Local media outlets like KCCI and the Des Moines Register were quick to pick up the story, drawing parallels with the recent impeachment of President Bill Clinton, which dominated headlines. The community, which had watched the Star Report drama unfold on their televisions, now found their own scandal unfolding in their backyard. December 1998 in Winterset, Iowa, was marked not by the usual holiday spirit, but by the arrest of Sheriff Jeffrey Van Dyke. The 47-year-old lawman, once a pillar of the community, found himself in handcuffs, accused of committing the very crimes he had sworn to protect the town against. His arrest on a frosty morning sent ripples through the town, splitting it between relief and disbelief. Van Dyke, who had served the county with distinction, had his reputation called into question when he was taken into custody without resistance. His stoic demeanor during the arrest was captured by local news crews, with footage later broadcasted, drawing parallels to the stoic resignation of President Nixon during the Watergate scandal. The once trusted sheriff was now the prime suspect in a series of brutal murders that had left the small town of Winterset reeling. The community's reaction was polarized. Some residents felt a sense of vindication, believing that the long arm of the law had finally caught up with the culprit. Others, however, couldn't reconcile the sheriff's upstanding image with the accusations leveled against him. Whispers of a conspiracy began to circulate, with some suggesting that Van Dyke was being framed by a more sinister force. The victims' families were caught between the desire for closure and the fear of a miscarriage of justice. The Carlyles, Peters, Gretas, and Steinbergs, who had once looked to Van Dyke for answers, now faced the prospect that he might be the cause of their anguish. The local paper, the Winterset Madisonian, chronicled the family's heartache and the town's division, offering a somber counterpoint to the festive articles typical of the season. As the year drew to a close, the town of Winterset was left to grapple with the uncertainty of the upcoming trial and the unsettling thought that the man they had entrusted with their safety might be the one who had shattered it. As the year 1998 drew to a close, the small town of Winterset, Iowa, became the unlikely backdrop for a trial that captured the nation's attention. Sheriff Jeffrey Van Dyke stood accused of a series of brutal murders, his fate resting in the hands of a jury. The courtroom, typically quiet, was bustling with activity as the trial unfolded during the height of the holiday season. Prosecutor Elaine Briggs, a formidable figure with a reputation for her tenacious pursuit of justice, faced off against the equally skilled defense attorney Marcus Cole. The courtroom drama rivaled the tension of the NFL playoffs, which dominated December's sports discussions, as both sides presented their arguments with fervor. The prosecution painted Van Dyke as a man with a hidden dark side, capable of the heinous crimes that had shattered the peace of Winterset. The defense, however, portrayed him as a scapegoat, a man whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The jury listened intently, the weight of their decision as heavy as the snow blanketing the town outside. The trial proceedings were a top story for local media outlets like W. V, and the case was followed closely by the Des Moines Register, which provided daily updates. The public, still discussing the recent release of the popular film Saving Private Ryan, found the trial a somber contrast to the usual festive cheer. In a stunning turn of events, the jury returned with a verdict of not guilty. The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of emotion, with some feeling justice had been served, while others were left in disbelief. The victims' families were torn between relief and devastation, their grief compounded by the lack of closure. In the aftermath of the trial that concluded in December 1998, the small town of Winterset, Iowa, struggled to find its footing. The once serene community, synonymous with the idyllic bridges featured in the film The Bridges of Madison County, had been thrust into the national spotlight for a series of tragic events that culminated in a trial that left the town divided and searching for answers. The Carlisle, Peters, Gretas, and Steinberg families faced their first holiday season shadowed by the absence of their loved ones. The verdict, which saw Sheriff Jeffrey Van Dyke acquitted of the murders, provided no solace. Instead, it left a void filled with lingering doubts and unresolved grief. The Winterset Madisonian captured the somber mood in its pages, the local editorials reflecting on a year that had challenged the very fabric of their community. With some saying the verdict was justice while others said there was a conspiracy to protect him. Landon Bondi, whose mental health struggles had come to light during the investigation, sought treatment in the wake of the trial. His journey to recovery was a rare glimmer of hope in a narrative dominated by loss and uncertainty. The Winterset Police Department faced intense scrutiny over the handling of the case. Calls for reform echoed through the town, mirroring the national conversation sparked by the recent unveiling of the iMac G3, which had challenged perceptions of technology and design. As for Van Dyke, the former sheriff retreated to a quiet life in Florida, far from the icy winters and heated debates he left behind. His name would forever be entwined with the unsolved mysteries that plagued Winterset, a burden he would carry alongside the memories of a career that had ended in controversy. The town of Winterset entered the new year with a collective sense of wariness. The bridges that had once symbolized connection now served as reminders of the divisions wrought by the year's events. The community, bound by shared sorrow, looked to the future with the hope that time would bring healing and, perhaps one day, answers. The Winterset murders remain a dark chapter in the town's history. The line between lawman and lawbreaker blurred, leaving a community to grapple with the aftermath of a verdict that provided more questions than closure. This has been True Crime Case Files. Thank you for joining us as we explored the depths of human nature and the justice system. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep seeking the truth. Hey, True Crime Case Solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, True Crime Case Solvers.